Hey guys, it's Tombox here. Welcome back to the classroom. It's been a while since we have done a discussion here, and I got a question for you guys, and I would love for you guys to participate. The question of the day is, are you a salty player? Now, let's be honest here. Most well-seasoned Yu-Gi-Oh players, they're salty as I get it, well-seasoned, salty. Okay, fine, no more puns. But let's be honest here. I personally, I'm gonna admit, I am a salty player when I lose. I try to keep it down low because I don't want to be known as that guy on YouTube that's super salty. And I know it sucks when you lose. And depending on how we take our wins and losses, it's going to change how people perceive you as a person and how it actually affects your locals. In fact, this affects your locals more than any sort of tier 2 event. It's less likely that people are going to be super salty at a tier 2 event, mainly because they don't want to get suspended. Maybe someone's going to snitch on them, or maybe there's a judge nearby seeing that you're having very unsportsmanlike conduct. So that's why it's less of a thing there. But at your locals, do you guys know of someone that's super salty and unpleasant to play with? Leave it down in the comment section below. I would love to hear your stories. But today's video is exactly about that, being salty and the effects of being salty and how to identify whether or not you're being salty and blinded by your own rage. Now, I may be speaking in the context of Yu-Gi-Oh, but this applies to all kinds of trading card games or any type of games that have RNG as well as skill involved, especially in a PvP kind of setting. So I guess you can send this to anyone that you think is super salty. Maybe they'll change how they behave. Maybe they won't, and they will get really mad at you because you've just exposed of how you think about them when you play the game or something like that. I don't know, but before I get into this video, I just want to give a huge shout out to my Patreons that are making these videos possible. Check out the Patreon link down in the description below. It really helps out, any number of pledge. And now I guess let's get into this video. Now, personally, I've been exposed to 4 different kinds of salty players. These are mainly salty losers. There's probably other salty losers that I may have not been exposed to. Well, you guys can enlighten me, if you will. But the 4 kinds are the entitled winner, the most common one that everyone sees at their locals. There's also the salty because everyone hates you, salty because you're getting trolled, and you also have salty because you're a bit of a budget free-to-play kind of guy, and you seem to always play those guys that are paid to win, and they always seem to beat you. You know what? We'll talk about each one of these. Let's start off by talking about the entitled winners. The entitled winners are everywhere. They're the most confident ones. They're self-confident, and they're pretty self-conscious about how well they should be performing because they have done X or done Y, or they own X or own Y. Okay, that's cool and all, but then there are off days. And on those off days, maybe you'll be playing some third-rate duelist with a fourth-rate deck, and it just so happens that at every turn, they seem to have the upper hand, and ultimately, they beat you. They just destroy you, and I don't know, maybe they're playing Shape Snatch, OTK, or whatever, some really low tier garbage, and they beat your tier 1 deck. It's not supposed to happen, quote unquote supposed, but it did. And then you get pissed off, and you get pissed off at why that kid's even there. Why is he in your way? And this is a statistic anomaly. And then you get really mad at him, you start yelling at him, like you start like criticizing him. But let's be honest here, this game does involve luck, and if luck is not on your side, you got bad karma, I don't know, whatever that you believe in, it just so happens to make you lose. And once you lose, just accept the fact that there are off days, because if you lose, it's like an embarrassing moment. It's a moment in your life, but it doesn't define who you are. However, how you behave will define who you are. If you start running your mouth and start, you know, BMing the crap out of your opponent, or just trash talking all the way through about how bad your opponent was even though you lost, it just makes you look worse in a more permanent thing because it's reflecting your character rather than reflecting that one situation, and that has a bit of more of a permanent scarring in most people's impression. So the second kind of salty is a little bit more understandable. Salty because everyone wants you to lose. This is quite common nowadays, especially with teams being more of a thing. Especially with teams, people want to cheer on their teammate, and you might not be their teammate. If you go to someone else's locals and they've got more friends than you, then of course they want their friends to win, and therefore it's pretty common to hear people distract each other. It's like, and they start whispering behind your back, like, oh man, what a misplay. Oh, he's so bad. Yeah, he's so bad. Oh, it eventually kind of gets to you. And every single time you make a misplay or anything like that, you get like destroyed. Even though it's like a minor victory for your opponent, even though it's not like in any kind of good situation for them, they're going to cheer rapidly. And then whenever they see you make a misplay, they're going to also cheer really rapidly and point it out that it's like, oh my God, he's so bad. and start to distract you. And eventually you're gonna crack under that negative emotion, all that negative buildup, and you're gonna want them to shut up because they're being really obnoxious, and perhaps they should stay quiet so you can focus on your game. But depending on how you deliver that message, you could be perceived as a bit of an asshole. And you don't want to come out as an asshole, you want to come out clean. So you can say it in a much more respectable way. Maybe I'm just Canadian and I just don't want to be like too confrontational, but you don't have to make it too confrontational where you can't really take it back if you escalate it a bit too far. So if you politely ask them first time not to say anything or tell them to quiet down and they continue, then you can of course take it up a notch and tell them to shut the you know. And I wouldn't say that you're salty, I just say that you're just being reasonable because everyone else is now being an asshole. And the third kind of salty player I've seen is the guys that get trolled. They get salty, so mad that they're getting an opponent that is specifically there to troll them. Yeah, this is what makes me mad, especially like out of the hundreds and hundreds of players, and usually this happens at like a tier 2 event, a higher tier event, and this guy shows up and he's like my bubble match. I'm like, if I beat this guy, I am going to get my top, gonna get my invite, but you just so happen to play the guy that's anti your deck because he hates your deck because your deck is meta. There are always those guys out there. And they would give up their chances at winning to troll you, to troll people playing this deck. And you get so mad because it's the bubble round. You lose that round, you're like, oh my god, I wasted like 6 or 7 hours because this one guy decided to show up. And the moment he beats you and you get mad at him, that's when he's like getting the time of his life. He's like, oh man, I succeeded at my life goal. The day is complete, objective mission complete. Everything is great for him. So if you get mad, I would say that the guy trolling is very much doing a very good job at trolling you guys. That being said, I am one of those guys that get really angry, especially when I play against, out of the hundreds of people, this guy just happened to show up and kick my ass, and these are the ones that I just get kind of angry at, and it reflected recently too. So I apologize for any kind of mean remarks I may have made, but players will be players. You don't get to choose your opponent, so you just live life as it is. And the last kind of salty player would be the budget players that are a bit free to play. No offense to you guys, I respect you guys for being like budget and trying to play the game as much as you can, versus the guys that are pay to win and, well, I guess I suppose competitive players. The common argument, free to play versus pay to win, especially when the free to play players lose and then they get salty, I find that that is very dumb. Because the pay to win guys, they're more like the entitled winner. When they play against you and they lose, of course they're gonna get mad because they spent a lot of money and they still lost. But that's what we love about this community. We like making the rich guys, well, feel bad that they spent money. That's some people's goal anyway. But why can't we all just have fun? Let's just be honest here. But then there's the other free-to-play guys that complain like, oh, he beat me because he just spent so much money. He has Ash Blossoms, I don't. Well, eventually everything in Yu-Gi-Oh! Becomes a budget option. Eventually. It's just that might not be at its prime. And when cards are released, they have a life cycle that they're really expensive in the beginning, and they slowly drop down near the end of their life cycle. And that's when they're a bit more affordable and more people can acquire it. But that being said, I think it's a bit silly because the guys are top heavy, that they are kind of at the forefront of pay to win. They keep the game fresh and they give money to the business that keeps this game running, because everything kind of costs money in the end. And of course, money makes things easier. If they work a part-time job and they use that part-time money to invest into their own game, well, that's their life option, that's their choice. And you know what? Hats off to you for working so hard for a hobby that you like so much. Whereas if you're free to play because you can't work, well, that's unfortunate. Maybe when you can work, you can try and work and invest. And if you had the same amount of money to invest into the game, would you? Or would you have spent it on something else? So there's a lot of questions on here, but I just want to say respect for being a budget player, respect for being a pay-to-win player. I get that it is unfair, but life is unfair, and we'll just have to accept it and move on. To close this off, if you're being really salty and negative, you release this vibe that makes it very uncomfortable for people. And there are symptoms that to help you identify. When you're blinded in rage, maybe you might not see it, but hopefully you're conscious enough to be aware that people might tell you, yo, dude, take it easy, relax, chill out for a bit. Man, that's when you know that maybe you have gone too far. And when you've gone too far, you're making other people uncomfortable. some people might not be as upfront, or maybe they won't be as confrontational, so they stare at you. They just like look at you, they're like playing their game, they kind of like scrunch up and they're like, I don't want to be around that guy. Or maybe people are just blatantly avoiding you now because you're a disgusting person now, because maybe you smell bad, or maybe you smell like a really bad loser. So you create this unwelcome vibe, and eventually it will chase away the people that go to the store and destroy your own locals. This is a very funny story that is also true. There is this one store that I don't really want to mention. There's this one really bratty kid at their locals that's disgusting. They're choosing to go to a locals that's half an hour away instead of going to that locals. Like, this is stuff that's actually happening. And you guys can tell me whether or not you guys have moved to a different locals just because there were several people that were bad apples at one locals that just kind of drove you away. It happens, so that's something to be aware of. I know that losing sucks, guys, and sometimes you just really need to vent out. But just remember, at the end, it is just a game. And okay, well, that's all I got for this video, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, please hit me up with a thumbs up. Leave a comment down in the comment section whether or not you yourself is a salty player, or maybe there are some salty situations that are a bit more acceptable, or perhaps you've been driven away from one of your other locals because, or your community because someone was a nasty person. If you guys want to see more stuff from MST.TV, check out the subscription button down in the description below and hit that notification bell, #notification squad. And thank you for Patreons for making these videos possible. And as always, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please drop us a like so we know we are doing a good job, and you can also subscribe to MST.TV for more fantastic videos by clicking on the button on the left. Don't forget to check out our partners at Imperium Duelist. They make really high quality mats, including some of my own limited edition release stuff. And if you want to check out one of our past videos, click here on the right. As always, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV, and I'll see you next time.